Hi, everybody. Well, another Thursday. Just like to make a comment, if you don't mind. If you can, during this COVID situation, there are a lot of people that get really a little bit anxious because they're not really able to get out and do the things that they normally do. Um, in our world, primarily human beings are very ritualistic. And what that means is they're really basically involved with habits. And those habits are very nurturing. And, and as a matter of fact, they're kind of things that people have figured out make them feel more comfortable. And at these times, sometimes these nurturing things are not able to be involved with just folks naturally and normally. So don't be nervous about, and if you wouldn't mind doing this, reach out to your friends and people that you probably don't know that well, and just to check in and see if they're doing okay. Likely you'll get an answer that says, oh yeah, we're doing fine, everything's good, everything, but the intensity internal is very strong. And just talking to somebody, which is really outside the habit of what they're normally used to doing, is very comforting. It's comforting to everybody. So if you wouldn't mind, those of you who are in various places all over the US, Canada, and UK, and elsewhere, reach out and engage and talk about the things that make you uncomfortable about staying close to home, and listen. So tonight, I'd like to talk a little bit about a question submitted by Della Murphy in Maryland. And it's a question that is quite, strangely enough, akin to being involved with various changes that are occurring in our lives right now. She talks about it in terms of meditation and in terms of reaching in and trying to empty herself from herself. This is it's a wonderful thing, actually. People all over the world have been trying to do this, but the reasons why they do that, are attempting to do this, are not really well understood. For example, an individual creates a personality. I hope you don't mind me talking about this. I sometimes do talk about this. And they really basically do not know how they do that. And here's an avenue that might be helpful, something that might make some sense, possibly. I discussed this kind of a question relating to love and this internal essence or love that will go along with anything and everything that you believe you need to do for whatever reasons. And you don't notice that's actually happening. You look at that and probably consider, well, this is the right thing to do, that's the right thing to do, and you proceed to do it. Or that's one method. Another method is you are doing things reflexively and you engage with them and you don't notice that you're even engaging with them, but you're acting out realistic and so-called realistic, but reflexive responses that are literally there and have been created from the time of your birth. If you take a look at, and this is something that have talked to some about, at the number of seconds that are in the age that you are. And consider the possibility that in every second, I mean, between whatever your age is, if it was 40 or 35, back to age 0, every one of those seconds is filled with moments that you have basically normally often forgotten. But they're not forgotten internally. They're registered. And one could say unconsciously, if you believe in the unconscious, certainly some early psychologists did. And collectively, as Mr. Young said, the whole of the world is engaged with those responses, everyone. And they link up together because they're often very similar. We're human beings. We have emotional, physical, mental responses that are similar while thinking they're very, very unique. They are unique in the sense that we use them in the way we believe we need to use them to be us. That's a uniqueness. And they make images. You construct images with those seconds, moments of engagement with life during your movement through life. The images come up so fast you don't even know you're making them. And they're reified, stiffened, and held, positioning you to be the form that you have decided you are. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. That is not negative. That's natural. That's the most natural thing to do for all of us. And we have rules and regulations around that. To be a truly good cultural person, you must have this and this and this and this and act this way and that way and this way and agree with this and this and this and this and this. And yeah, cultures have been involved that way for millennia. And they will again. The ancient sages, through experience, recognized that there were other states that could be and are involved within the construct of that personality form that's created, but also at the same time, we are blinded by that form. Or let's say we were held in a boundary related to the form. Now, this is not negative once again. This is a natural thing. It is involved with all material things. It's involved with all emotional things. It's involved with all mental things. It's involved with all spiritual things. We bring ideas into this structure of what we value. And all those images that you have cultivated from as far as you can remember, we have created them based on free energy given to us to do just that. One could say it's akin to will, but it's not quite will. It's almost as if it's flexible, malleable, enabling. You get this, you create something so that you can see it and wonder whether you're going to completely keep it. Is it of value to you? Well, the difficulty with that is, first of all, you don't know the essence. You can't perceive it because of our level of perception at this stage in our development. You do not know whether you have the option to agree or disagree with yourself, and you do. It's not always easy to do that because you've already considered whatever you do to be the valued thing. And now, as soon as you express it, you have to protect it. If you do not protect it, then you consider yourself vulnerable. And that vulnerability is not good because you've said something, you believe something, and now you're considering that you don't believe it. Or maybe it's not fully developed as an idea. Is that possible? The range that we have potentially in allowing ourselves to understand the relationship that we have with that flexible flow of energy that will allow us to use it in any form will also help us to protect that form so that we don't feel uncomfortable. And the nature of feeling uncomfortable is emotional, physical, mental, and culturally spiritual, whatever that means. Wherever you live, whatever you do, if you live in the remotest place in Africa and you have medicine men and they are medicine women and you align with those forms, you will believe that that is the structure. It's the same in any formula. Well, the good thing about those formulas are there's some validity in each formula. And now you shouldn't say that out loud, because what you're really doing is not then agreeing with some version of what must be true to be the true way of thinking, the true way of emoting, the true way of physically engaging, and the true way of being spiritual. It is my understanding that there is no such thing as only one way. However, it's my understanding. But there is good and depth in each and every way of thinking, mentally, emotionally, physically, or spiritually. And we are in a movement towards understanding that, but reticence is high. So the question then is, in a kind of a way, if we're looking to actually be more conscious of what we are doing, then in the old traditions, in the ancient traditions, they gave us a hint. And the hint was this: there is a level of mind, there is a level of emotion, there is a level of physical adherence, attention, there is a level of spiritual engagement that allows you to know there is a depth of essence or love that expresses itself. But first, you must be quiet emotionally, mentally, so that you can watch and see what's going on inside you, literally, in a silent place, empty of the need to defend the personality in those few moments, in some cases seconds, in some cases not there. It's just imaginative engagement with what you believe has to be true, and there is nothing negative about that, except you devalue others. And that's not in that place of engaging with a higher state. It's in a place with a cultural relationship with what one believes must be true right now, for this second. Now that is important to be noticed, according to these sages. They called it empty of the reflex responses that a person has, the anger, the frustration, the fear, the vulnerability. In Christian terms, I believe that Jesus said it's fear that we have to be careful of. Because once we fear that something will overtake our belief, then we defend the belief. And he said, no. You don't have to defend the belief if you have it. If you know something is real, you don't have to defend it. It's real for you. What others think of things is what they have to believe. You don't have to comply with the belief, but you don't have to defend your belief. That's a very strange thing to say, but nonetheless, others have said it other than the Christian orientation. But it's since we're brought up in North America, and the European front, some have learned more about the Christian background than any other background. I'm surprised a little bit, but I'm not surprised, because in the West, there's also the other beliefs. I mean, Buddhism is there, and the Hebrew orientation is there, and Hindu orientation is also all across the world. The Muslim orientation is all across the world. A little curiosity, learning about other things might be helpful, however. But that learning is still a part of our relationship with our personalities. Now, here's the double-edged sword. We learn about others the best we can. They have a right to believe in the language they believe, in the words they believe. We have a right to believe in the language we believe, in the words we believe. We do not have a perception to understand the depths of love that is engaged with all structures. You even use that to cultivate and defend your beliefs. Here's where the empty comes in. To quiet your mind, to quiet your emotions, to quiet a reflex internal nervousness that is stringent around the necessity to defend without knowing that which you believe, is a natural part of what that love will allow. But it will also allow you to begin not to judge or make up your mind about different ideas. You could, it's your prerogative, but to allow yourself to soften down or quieten down, or quiet, in terms of the ancients, they called it silence, empty, into the void, they called it, that which is not. We live in a world that our world is the world of is. Something is this, and something is that. That which is not. Can you engage silently with the watching of you? Engage with life and not be negative about how you function. Just realize how you function. If you don't agree with how you're functioning, if you have no defense, then you don't have to agree with how you're functioning. If you have defense and you're the perpetrator of the defense, you will defend the defense. This is a natural thing for us. This is the nature of our levels of engagement, and we're learning slowly, ever so. And there's nothing negative about learning slowly. So here, it doesn't mean you can't have an idea that's counter to the idea you have, or counter to somebody else's idea. it doesn't stop you from being a human being. As a matter of fact, there is a pause, a few seconds, a few minutes to be curious about why one would think this way. Why are you thinking that way? Or this way, or that way. But it doesn't mean you're still not going to act like a human being. We're learning that there is a middle ground in between yes, no, good, bad, right, wrong. It's difficult to do that. Well, you have to go back to the sages again. Who wants to, one could say. Well, if you're really interested in maturing beyond what we are currently able to call maturity, it might be an interesting thing. For example, if there is quiet inside of you, and Della has achieved a few seconds of quiet, that's amazingly, profoundly helpful. But it makes you think that you would be vulnerable if you didn't have everything that you knew and did before and validated before, right at the apex of your acute looking and watching. In other words, your acute defending makes you vulnerable not to defend, because we're brought up on those words. And we are brought up not to see deeper, but to believe more on the surface, because it validates what we believe. Is it okay to do that? Absolutely. Is it okay not to do that? Absolutely. So moments of development. And this is like trying to understand beyond the idea of judgment about what you say and do. Looking at it is not judging it. For example, you walk to the corner of a street. Perhaps you look both ways. If you're on your cell phone, you're not going to look both ways. You're on your cell phone. You're paying attention to something else. Or if you're watching somebody over here, you're not looking both ways. Well, let's say you look both ways. And a car comes around a corner and it's out of your vision. It almost hits you. It may be your fault. It may be the car's fault. But you weren't paying attention. Suddenly, before it comes around the corner, you catch something, sensing something over here that's strong. That's that inner perception getting stronger, just for a second or two. It's preserving you, this form. And if you were generally paying attention but quickly looking and miss something, you may notice kind of an instinctive thing that may occur. Other people call it intuition, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't mean that's what it is. It's just a name you're calling things. It's a sensing. You're sensing your environment. And as a matter of fact, you do it physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. But what happens, according to the sages, is that you will instinctively believe what you've been told you must believe until you start to experience something different internally. And this is the reason why they suggested that the relationship that we have with our environmental system, our personality perceiving system, is that we begin to stretch our relationship beyond what we believe has to be true, knowing full well that life itself will press us to go back into acting the way we did 10 seconds before we decided to do something different. And we'll do that continually because it's the nature of a cultivation of a system to do its job you've told it to do, without knowing you told it to do that. Our environment is such that there's a perpetration that goes on, continuing. It is natural for us as we grow to move into a space that shows us that we're not growing, so that we won't grow. These things, if we don't pay attention to them, solicit fear, solicit nervousness. If we do pay attention to them, then we feel vulnerable. In Della's case, there was a vulnerability that began to show up in those places. And yes, it is natural to have it. The sages, this is very interesting. At least I find it interesting. The sages would go into a cave. A friend of mine and myself went and visited one of these caves at one particular time. And they would be in their cave. And fortunately, we were allowed to be there. And my friend decided to go after a few moments, and I decided to stay for a few minutes. I found it very interesting because the intense flow of energy that was in that cave relating to the sages that had been there before, the yogis and the yoginis, was still there. The images would come out of nowhere and present themselves, look and disappear. Different ones would come. These were images that related to higher state relationships that these images had after they had passed, when they were no longer on these planes. And in fact, having an experience like that, if I had been really nervous about that, that would have been a scary thing. But I wasn't nervous under those conditions simply because I had had those kinds of experiences before in my seconds or minutes or hour or half hour of life in a certain years of my development. Not extra special, just part of my development. If you have them, not extra special, just part of the development of an individual system. And the system is always trying to get back into. It's like a genie trying to get back into a bottle. Well, what kind of bottle would you like to get back into? Well, it's not negative to get back into the bottle. As a matter of fact, it's comforting. That's why the vulnerability shows up. Because this form, these series of images that we have, baseball player, wrestler, boxer, brilliant individual, creative runner, emotionally wondrous, able being, blah, blah, blah. Whatever they are, it's okay. But they come together and solidify. And that form becomes the structure, the stage on which you perpetually engage, at least for up to 100 and so years or less. And that structure, you believe if you have to leave it behind. Well, here's what you leave behind. Within the construct of all of these planes, physical, emotional, and mental, what shows up is the intensity of how you function. your wishes, wants, desires, whatever. They're in the lower system. Well, I say lower system, but let me call it the personality system that is akin to these levels. No negation in that. And you present and engage and add to and take away from there. Take away in a kind of funny way, meaning this: while you're here, and these sages have done these kinds of things, while you're here, if you can link up with a higher state for just a few seconds and watch yourself engaging with life without negation, without elevation, just watching, and then present and ask for something, you don't know what it'll be, but for a kind of healing to take place within that form so that you can move beyond what you have to be the way you think you need to be, whether it's spiritual, emotional, mental, any. That implies that there's something wrong with what you are. And I am saying this clearly. That is not the case. The case is what you're trying to do is engage with another state. You know, if I was going up and around in the 40s to fly a plane, I have to put some really warm clothes on. It's cold up there. Well, it's my preparation. Back in the earlier years, if I didn't have that, I couldn't go high because it's way too cold. I would freeze. I wouldn't be able, my brain would be not able to function. I would not be able to function. If I walk into a home that I've been a child in, and I haven't seen my background for 20 years, the expectation of those that would be in my background would be the same as the last time that they saw me. They would pull emotionally, mentally, physically for me to act that way. So how they were thinking of me would be validated in their minds. Think about this. That's not negative. That's how we are. You have an expectation that the things that you do, the way you see you, are the only ways you should be seen. I'll guarantee that everyone that meets you will see you differently. But you will see them differently than they think you see them. We do this with our engagement in life all the time. But we think there are certain ways that we should present to be validated in a manner that relates directly to how you want to be validated. And it never quite works perfectly. Neither does growing. All the rules we have about growing are helpers. All the ways you believe things are at higher states are helpers. But we don't treat them like that. We treat them like rules, regulations somehow, that devalue others. In those few seconds of empty, there is nothing that comes to you from what validates you when you are watching you. That was the wondrous key. The more often you can have those 5 or 6 seconds or 2 seconds, but I don't care, 1 second for that matter, are the moments that you can look at you and no reaction will occur. The sixth second, if you saw yourself for 5, the sixth second will pull reactions from you, and you will have a view about how you're functioning that you may not be very constructive, or it might be highly elevated. I'm wonderful. I do this. Either way, that's not the goal. The goal is, so that's how I am. Okay, maybe I can watch that. Maybe I can do it slightly different because I don't necessarily agree with that. You don't have to agree with you. The sages knew that if your focus was on perceiving, the interlock between the lower, coarser levels of engagement and beliefs would be superseded by a link with a higher state where you could follow that link into you and see nothing negative, only that you had chosen this way to be your path and other ways are available. Right up to the last breath of your life. No negation is there. But we are trained on negation. So negation will be there. That's a reflex, but only at the sixth second. If you learn how to do this for a whole minute or more, you will be watching the inner flows of currents internally and where they are internally, and see where they are in the lower system for a purpose of maintaining that personality, and then broadening and moving into and through some of the upper systems so that they can get them to go broader, so that they can influence again the lower system and help it to be fused and synthesized with a higher state, thus enabling an individual to keep out of the picture that relates to others through energy, not through verbalization, not through assessment, but just through energy, so that energy can come in using any system, chakras, Zephyrat, whatever they may be, for the help of another, through where one small leaf of your life has been adjusted so that you could be of great help to another who cannot adjust at all a similar leaf in them. And it has a really strong effect on their personality. That is a wondrous thing. That is a healing, a helping, of which you're a part, but you don't take part in it except to allow that flow to occur. That's why those higher state sages talked about engaging with silence. They meant the silencing of the emotional mind, the emotional disposition, meaning for a time that silence was there so another state could act with a sense of pure engagement for the purpose that might be helpful, for that energetic purpose that might be helpful for another in areas where they need the help, as opposed to where you think they need the help. Mind you, here we are. We're talking about something that is so universal and so profound. And one would legitimately ask if it's possible, even if you're not capable of being totally silent all the time, you could say, and we're human beings, so we're not going to be perfect. And yes, it is possible for energy to operate through you on the lower levels, on the upper levels, because these two levels keep helping each other through the cycle of lives and through the cycle of life itself, so that the lower system, even though it broadens as the upper system opens, becomes fused with the upper system, and you see things slightly different than you could before. It does make you more vulnerable. But you're vulnerable every single day to other people's views about what you say and what you do and how you think and why you would act this way versus that way. This is pretty consistent. And you also are vulnerable inside because, on the whole, you're good people. And you attempt to do the best you can at any given moment. Realizing, of course, that the best you can may not be enough. And that's fine. It happens. Happens to all of us, not most of us, all of us. None of us who are honest about being able to function know that they're not perfectly able to function perfectly. And that's not up for grabs. From a judgment place, the implication is that you're superior to judge. Everybody has this experience. Even if you think you don't, it's okay. Those things happen. You ever get frustrated with other things that are happening? Yeah. Remember, and I'll try to talk a little bit more about this on the 24th, the impact you have as a growing person on many levels of energetic engagement from the coarser to the infinite is strong. We have a small planet here with an abundance of people. Oh, close to 8 billion. So close. And as a matter of fact, as we breathe, probably we're getting even closer. But the issue is it possible to be helpful? And I would submit it is. Let me look at Bella's questions just to be sure. Now, I tried to answer a little bit about two other questions at the same time. One, in terms of finding a balance. Nobody gets to be perfect at finding a balance. You get to express yourself in the nature of you, even if you think you're not doing it, because it rubs off. There's always a little bit of the import that is selectively there with all of us so that you can survive and feel comforted by you and be okay with you. It's valuable. We need help in that to be okay with us as we grow. So let me look at this, if you don't mind, just for a second. Yeah, I'm holding back a little bit on this because I might want to talk a speck about some of this other stuff, especially about impacts of energetic flow on the 24th. The personality, you got to remember, if you think you would like to remember, I should say it that way, is when you're dealing with you, try to practice being as kind as possible, respectful about views that you may have one way or another about how you function or don't function, but also attempt, if you can, allow yourself to do so, attempt to be okay with you the way you are, and just also be okay with moving just a little beyond where you are now. Meaning, can you allow yourself to open a little bit more to, not to how you function and how right you are or bad you are and all the rest of it. No, to another consideration that's just slightly beyond the one you have now. It won't negate the one you have now, but if you can broaden it, it can be a little bit more inclusive of the one you have now. That means you're more open to understanding how others function a slight bit better than you could before. Knowing full well the reflex is to go back into how you were before. That's a natural reflex. Please understand that. So, because some people have talked to me about how terrible it is that they are still acting sometimes the way they did before. You expect it. But here's the other expectation, I suppose. You will notice it more. If you can just slow down your judgment and increase those seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds. And then, so because linked up with your observation of you is also a link with loving you. Now, that includes the old you, or the you that you would naturally be, and the one that is broadening. Both of them are quite okay. Okay, then why am I trying to change something? Oh, yeah. It's not about the matter of fact that you're trying to change something. You're trying to see something. And this is an opportunity to see more than you could allow yourself to see before. And that is in alignment with, as the sages say, the seeing of inside of you as eddies and currents of flow in movements toward and from acts of engagement with life. Acts of engagement with life. Life is not only here. Life is teeming. Of course, we have about 10 minutes. It relates to after you leave these planes. I can never have had that so clearly indicated in my life. For a short time, I was involved with the spiritualist church, and I knew a gentleman, his name was Reverend Stoddard, in Toronto, in Canada. And he was a very interesting clairvoyant. He wasn't interested in seeing energies around people and therefore judging people because of those energies. His focus was on seeing people after they had passed. And after a year or so with him, I had begun to perceive these individuals. For some reason, it wasn't nerve-wracking to me. I don't know why. Possibly old life. I don't know. I can't say that that's true. But when I was doing a service in Toronto, what happened was that there was one could say, an imaginary number of balconies. That's how it went. But there were no balconies. They were imaginary. But on these imaginary balconies were people who had passed over, still engaged with these planes because they had loved ones in the church. Church was full, and they would point energy in the direction of an individual. I'd follow it down with my small little gift at the time that I was given so I could learn from it. And then later on, it was gone, right? Because I learned from it. And then go to this person, and I would tell them what this person was talking about because I could hear them and I could see them. And I understood the vulnerability that both of them were, at least to some degree, probably minor degree in those days. And I would disclose that information, but there were different levels of growth that were being shown. And that was just being a helper, not a big deal. Ultimately, my time was up there and I had to move on, and therefore that kind of clairvoyance moved on for me. Within about 2 weeks from the time that I quit, it was gone, and it needed to be gone because I had to go and learn something else. This is part of the journey. We are learners. We are only learners. We're not important because of this and this and this. We're learners. But that important thing helps us feel comforted. Nonetheless, there was life after the departed were no longer on these coarser levels. Life on other planes, on other levels. And this is a must for people to understand. The energy of an individual doesn't die off. Over a period of time, the individual is engaged with the loved ones and then eventually moves on in the direction that she or he needs to go for the development of their being towards the link up with even higher states. This is my view because of my experience. If you don't have these experiences, then you don't have that view. They're not perfect experiences. They're just mine. Others have others. To negate an experience, I can't negate the experience of another because I wasn't there when they had it. And that's a reality. You can hear and see. Have an awareness inside that head, what we call mind. Inside the form, even, from what I've been told, that awareness of other states can be perceived by you. Yet, you have to know the difference between that which you are and that which you are not. Therefore, your personality being watched by you is a learning moment so that you know the difference between how you normally function and how you interact with growing, and also if any other levels of perception enter into you. And it's just a level of perception. Doesn't make you special, but it does give you that experience so that you can grow and go on. I'd like to end this with the realization that many of our loved ones who have passed away have just passed away from these planes. And they can move forward. And our love for them and our engagement with them, if remembered, and then wishing them well on their way, will be helpful to them. You'll never forget the love that you had with them. But You also would ask that you would be able to go on your way when the time came so that you could grow more. Give them the best you can and the best prayers you can come up with for the purpose of helping them to go beyond where they were before. Thank you very much. And we're going to meditate right now. And we'll just make some adjustments to get some music. And good night, everybody. Wish you well. Thanks for the questions, by the way. Thank you. Okay.
Shoka vinashakaranam Namami Vigneshwara Pada Pankajam Shika Vahana Modaka Hasta Chamarakarna Vilambita Sutra Vamanarupa Maheshwara Putra Vignavinayaka Pada Namaste Parashakti Sundari Namastasye Namastasye Namo Namaha Mahamaya Mahalakshmi Vaishnavi Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Lalita Devi Ma Saraswati Brahmi Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Lalita Devi Durga Devi Shankari Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Amba Lalita Devi Uma Parvati Shive Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Lalita Devi Ma Bhavani Ambike Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Ma Amba Lalita Devi Namastasye, 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 namo Lalita Tvam Brahmani Gayatri Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Lalita Devi Tvam Tripura Sundari Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Lalita Mata Bhuvaneshwari Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Lalita Devi Tvam Raja Rajeshwari Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Lalita Bhagavati Bhargavi Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Lalita Devi Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Lalita Nitya Parameshwari Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Jagadambe Janani Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Tvam Ananda Sagari Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Sarvamangalamangale Shile Sarvarthasadhike Sharanye Triambake Devi Narayani Namostute Narayani Namostute Narayani Namostute. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Jatachalashingagramadhyasthaye namo namaha. Himachalamahavamsapavanaye namo namaha. Shankaradhanga Saundarya Shariraye namo namaha. Sanvarakatasvacha vigrahaye namo namaha. Atishaya Saundarya Lavanyaye namo namaha. Shashankashekaram Pranavallabhaye namo namaha. Sada Panchadashatmekya Swarupaye namo namaha. Sada Panchadashatmekya Swarupaye Vajramanikya Kataka Kiritaye namo namaha. Kasturi Tilakola Sanitilaye namo namaha. Hasmare Kakitala Sanvastakaye namo namaha. Ekachamurhadalalochanaye namo namaha. Sarachambriya Pushpabhanasikaye namo namaha. Satkanchana Tatanka Yogalaye namo namaha. Manidarpana Sankasha Kapolaye namo namaha. Namo Namaha. Supakmadadini Vijaradanaye Namo Namaha. Samuchaya Kantaraye Namo Namaha. Stula Mukta Palokara Sumaraye Namo Namaha. Shabakamangalyamangalaye Namo Namaha. Om Padmapasham Kushalasatkarajaya Namo Namo Namaha. Suvarnakumbhayukma Bhasuchaye Namo Namaha. Om Ramaniya Chaturbahu Sanyuktaye Namo Namaha. Kanakangayate Muramushtaye Namo Namaha. Varnasaundaryavasanaye Namo Namaha. Prahannitam Vavilasa Jaganaye Namo Namaha. Saubhagyachata Shringara Madhyamaye Namo Namaha. Divyabhushana Sandroharanchitaye Namo Namaha. Parijata Gunadikya Padapchaye Namo Namaha. Parijata Kamakoti Mahapadma Pitaskaye Namo Namaha. Om Shri Kantanetra Kuda Chandrikaye Namo Namaha. Rakshana Dakshinya Katakshaye Namo Namaha. Deshalingano Namo Namaha. Anangajanaka Pangamikshanaye Namo Namaha. Brahmopendra Shiroratnaranjitaye Namo Namaha. Om Shansi Mukhyamaraharu Sevitaye Namo Namaha. Leela Kalpita Brahmanda Mandalaye Namo Namaha. Amritari Mahashakti Samvrtaye Namo Namaha. Om Ekatapatra Samrajya Daikaye Namo Namaha. Om Salakari Samaradya Padukaye Namo Namaha. Devarshi Vishnu Yamana Vibhavaye Namo Namaha. Om Kala Shobhavadurvasa Pujitaye Namo Namaha. Shakvarkavatsalaye Namo Namaha. Om Chakraraja Mahayantra Madhyavartinye Namo Namaha. Chidarnikunna Sambuddha Sudehaye Namo Namaha. Shashankakanna Samyukta Mukutaye Namo Namaha. Madhumandagamanaye Namo Namaha. Vandarujatasandroha vanditaye Namo Namaha. Antarmukhajalananda Palladaye Namo Namaha. Patiratang Kanabhishta Palladaye Namo Namaha. Avyaya Karunamura Puritaye Namo Namaha. Ekanta Sachidananda Samyuktaye Namo Namaha. Sahasra Surya Samyukta Prakashaye Namo Namaha. Ratnachintamanikrih Madhyastaye Namo Namaha. Adi Gunadhyarahitaye Namo Namaha. Mahapadmatavi Madhyanivasaye Namo Namaha. Jagrat Swapna Sushupti Nam Sakshi Bhutye Namo Namaha. महापापकपापानां विनाशिन्ये नमो नमः दुष्टभीतिमहाभीतिभञ्जनाय नमो नमः समस्तदेवतञ्च प्रेरकाय नमो नमः समस्तहृदयाम्भोजनिलयाय नमो नमः अनाहत महापद्ममन्दिराय नमो नमः सहस्रार सरोजातवासिताय नमो नमः पुनरावृत्तिरहित पुरस्ताय नमो नमः वाणी गायत्री सावित्री संयुक्ताय नमो नमः रमाभूमिसुधाराध्यपदाब्जाय नमो नमः श्रीवत्सरणाय नमो नमः सहस्रारित सौन्दर्य शरीराय नमो नमः भावनामात्र सन्तुष्ट हृदयाय नमो नमः सत्यसम्पूर्ण विज्ञान सिद्धिदाय नमो नमः
And now we'll just begin to do the balancing and grounding on your own. And have a good evening.